You gotta feel bad for the Washington Commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, we were wondering which team was gonna get stuck with Carson Wentz, and guess what? It's the Washington Commanders. Oh no. Oh no, full trade is official. It's gonna be announced when free agency opens, I guess March 16th. The deal is the Commanders get Carson Wentz, the Colts get this year's third round pick and next year's third round pick that can convert to a second based on some sort of incentives. The Commanders will be picking up the full $28 million contract that Carson Wentz does have. So if you're Indianapolis, I've said this for a while now, great move by them. You realize Carson Wentz probably isn't the elite quarterback that you need to get you over the hump. You get some assets back after, they still don't have their first round pick this year. They unfortunately traded that to get Carson Wentz, but now you're getting assets back. You're getting 2 third rounders back. You're getting a lot more cap room for this year. You can have a bigger free agency, which starts March 16, $28 more million in free cap space you've just created. You do need a quarterback. It'll be very interesting to see what the Indianapolis Colts do at the quarterback position. They're really just an elite quarterback and a number 1 receiver away from being a Super Bowl team. You've got a great offensive line. You've got an unbelievable running back. You've got a great number 2 wide receiver in Michael Pittman. You just need the quarterback, and you need another good receiver. Getting 2 third-round picks over the next 2 years can help you with that. You realize, very good job by the Colts being proactive. You realize trading a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, we made a mistake. The Indianapolis Colts realize we made a mistake. We're not going to let Carson Wentz waste multiple years here, leading us to nowhere. Leading us to, barely making the playoffs, just missing the playoffs, first-round exit. This year, they looked like they were going to make the playoffs and they lost to the Jaguars. It's a good job by the Colts to own up on their mistake and say Carson Wentz, unless everything is perfect around him, at this point, he's not leading us to a Super Bowl. And the Commanders, if you're a Commanders fan, it's tough. It really is. The thing with Carson Wentz, I don't know how his contract looks. Let me actually look up Carson Wentz's contract. So Carson Wentz's contract does include an opt-out after the 2022 season with 0 dead money. So if you're Washington, it doesn't work out with Carson Wentz, you can get out of the contract. He does have a contract of $20 million in 2023 and $21 million in 2024. So from the Commanders' perspective, Carson Wentz struggles. He doesn't play very well. You can get out of it, but still, it just seems like the Commanders, these teams, they're walking in quicksand. You get Carson Wentz. Is it really that? What is Carson Wentz going to do? I will say Washington does have a good defense. You're getting Chase Young back, hoping for a big year, big breakout year from him. You've got some decent skill position players, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson. But, this is just one of those trades. It's like, who was going to be the team that got stuck with Carson Wentz? The Commanders seemed like a good fit. They seemed like the exact team that would take on a player like Carson Wentz, and they end up getting him. Really kind of a nothing trade when you think about it. Carson Wentz is decent, whatever. You trade him for 2 third-round picks. If you're Indianapolis, you realize your mistake. We shouldn't have given up a first-round pick for him, but at least you're not spending 2 or 3 years with Carson Wentz at this point. Carson Wentz will be the Commanders' starting quarterback next year, and then they'll have a decision to make on if they want to potentially opt out of his contract with 0 dead money so they could just release him, I guess, with no baggage after the 2022 season. So that'll be very interesting. Also, the Russell Wilson trade was completed. Russell Wilson had to waive his no-trade clause. Those teams had been talking. It's very clear that they obviously wouldn't have agreed to the trade if Russell Wilson was not was not contacted about waiving his no-trade clause. He wanted to go to Denver. And Seattle, it's a very interesting trade. You get 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders. You're replenishing that. You didn't have a first-round pick this year. Now you've got the number 8 or number 9 overall pick in the first round, along with next year's first-rounder, along with the 40th overall pick this year in a loaded draft. So the Seahawks getting back a lot And they're in a very interesting position to where they could potentially tank for 1 year, get a really good young quarterback like a Brendan Armstrong, like a CJ Stroud, like a Bryce Young, and be completely fine. You've got the receivers. You could even trade a DK Metcalf, a Tyler Lockett. I would personally look to trade Lockett for a late first-round pick while hoping to extend DK Metcalf, building a young nucleus, giving your young quarterback something to work with, although there was also a rumor that they wanted to maybe get in on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. To me, that wouldn't make much sense. But again, we'll have to see what happens. Going from Russell Wilson to Deshaun Watson, as long as Deshaun Watson's legal issues are cleared up, that's a win. You're getting younger, but you would have to give up you'd have to give up those 2 first-round picks and then probably another really good young player. So it's like you're walking in quicksand at that point. There's really no reason to do it. I'd rather just draft like a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young next year in the draft. Personally, Leonard Fournette, we've got a report that says Fournette and Ronald Jones are both likely to depart Tampa Bay. I think Leonard Fournette might be the most underrated running back in the NFL. Maybe he's not. Maybe I'm just misgauging where people rank him, but he's a really good player. He's a good pass catcher, really good running back, breaks tackles. Seems like running backs are almost undervalued at this point. I agree. I wouldn't give one a bigger contract, but Leonard Fournette being out there for a team to sign, possibly a playoff team who's in need of a running back, that's a really good player, and you're going to get him. You're not going to have to pay very much. We've got a Mitch Trubisky report. It says if the Giants sign Trubisky, it would likely lead to an outright quarterback competition. A quarterback competition between Trubisky and Daniel Jones. If you're a Giants fan and you see, there's been rumors that the Giants are going to get Mitch Trubisky, you got to feel bad for Giants fans. You really do. I mean, nothing against Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky has actually gotten a lot of support recently of people saying, this guy could be a viable starter, but it's just like where are we going? With the quarterback. So Mitch Trubisky is our quarterback. Okay, what does that do? Does that get us to 7 wins? It's just so unfortunate. Personally, if I was the Giants, bring on Trubisky, let him compete with Daniel Jones. I guess at this point with Daniel Jones, he kind of is what he is. He kind of lost last year due to the injury, but I think it's pretty clear to everyone he is not a legit franchise quarterback option in the NFL. He was drafted 6th overall by the Giants, I believe 3 years ago. So he's got this year and then, the team option, which I'm sure they're going to decline if Daniel Jones does not improve significantly. If you are the Giants, there are great young quarterbacks in the draft next year. Maybe you decide with your number 5 and 7 pick this year, number 5, you look for maybe an offensive tackle. Number 7, you look for a franchise pass rusher, shore up both of the lines, and then get your franchise quarterback in the next draft. But it's just tough, man. If you seriously, if you have a quarterback competition in the summer, you're going into August with a quarterback competition of Daniel Jones and Mitch Trubisky. That's got to be demoralizing. As a fan, if I was a fan of the Giants, that's got to just be demoralizing. I equate that to what the Denver Broncos fans had to experience with the big competition between Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Just look at that. The QB competition, Teddy Bridgewater versus Drew Lock. Either way, we lose. Either way, you lose. Mitch Trubisky versus Daniel Jones. Either way, you lose. And Mitch Trubisky, he's gotten some support. Again, people are like, this dude's a legit starter. He's not, I don't think Mitch Trubisky is terrible. He was in a bad situation, but it's not like this dude is going to go out and win you a Super Bowl. Let's be honest about it. He'd be a really good backup quarterback, and he's a guy that for 3 or 4 weeks could probably come in if the starter got injured and do just fine. He could just do just fine. He's very underrated when it comes to his athleticism, his ability to run throughout in the pocket, physicality overall. I like that about Trubisky. So there's definitely a rumor that the Giants are in on Mitch Trubisky, and that would create an interesting quarterback competition. I think Trubisky is better than Daniel Jones personally. I just think he's better. I think he would win the competition. Maybe they want to go with Daniel Jones because he's younger. He's still maybe has more room to grow. But if they just did a straight-up competition, I think Trubisky would win. So the big news today, Carson Wentz getting traded to the Commanders. Again, it's kind of a nothing trade. Nothing against the Commanders, nothing against Carson Wentz. If you're Indianapolis, I think I would grade this trade an A. If you're a fan of the Colts, they're proactive. They realize Carson Wentz isn't going to get it done. I don't care if he threw 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He really wasn't that good. He has a great offensive line, although they did have bad receivers, I will say that. And then if you're the Commanders, is Carson Wentz an upgrade from Taylor Heineke? Of course he is. Of course he is. But is he an upgrade, enough to where that takes you to the next level? I'm almost fearful with a team like the Commanders. You're getting Carson Wentz. He'll get you to 8 wins. He'll get you to 9 wins, but he won't get you over the hump into the playoffs. And then you're in a spot where you're in this purgatory, like, we're going to get the 15th overall pick. You have zero chance of moving up in the draft to get a number 1 overall quarterback. That's why I'm in favor of teams tanking to get that number 1 overall pick. Number 1 overall picks are so valuable in years with, top quarterback prospects, which will be next year. They're so valuable. It's like we're in quicksand. It's like these franchises with these quarterbacks. We go from Taylor Heineke to Carson Wentz, and Indianapolis signs Phillip Rivers for 1 year. Then they go to Carson Wentz. It's just so much average. It's better to be horrible, get Joe Burrow, and then be great, right? That's why that is the idea of tanking. Be horrible, get CJ Stroud, get Bryce Young, and then let them build and let them grow, instead of constantly being average, getting the 15th overall pick, having to draft some fringe, hybrid QB, whatever, Dwayne Haskins, drafting him 15th overall. It's better to get the number 1 overall pick, take it on the chin 1 year, go 1-15, go 2-14. That is the philosophy of tanking. But guys, those are just the latest updates when it comes to the NFL. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.